Welcome.
Welcome, everybody. Great to see you. We're very happy to have this new session that has been organized by Dirk, and we have a wonderful guest, Juha Valkeapää. You have to correct my pronunciation later. But before we start, I wanted to pay a little homage to a Chilean poet that died last week. His name is Mauricio Rosenman. He's not a very well-known poet in Chile. He went to study music in France with Olivier Messiaen, and he teach music in Germany, in Essen, I think. And he died just some days ago. I will read a poem from his first book, Los Paraguas del No, a book that was published in 1968, I think. 1969 in Freiburg, it was published. And as well as all his books, he was very active publishing his book and sending them to Chile, but almost no one wrote a review about him. Unfortunately, he was not very considered, and I think it has to be with his very experimental writing. He was playing with the pages, with the graphic design, and also with some sketches, and also with the sound. He mixed very much techniques from the music to his poetry. He loved playing with glossolalia, with invented words, using different procedures. And I will read it is kind of a combinatory poem. It's in Spanish, but you will get the rhythm, I think. Necesidad sin nido, movimiento sin pájaro, florescencia sin árbol, hondonada sin aire, hondonada sin monte, necesidad sin nido, florescencia sin pájaro, movimiento del viento, necesidad del árbol, florescencia del nido, hondonada del aire, movimiento del monte, monte del movimiento, necesidad del árbol, florescencia del pájaro, movimiento del viento, necesidad sin nido, movimiento sin pájaro, florescencia sin árbol, hondonada sin aire, hondonada sin monte, necesidad sin nido, florescencia sin pájaro, movimiento del viento, necesidad del árbol, florescencia del nido, hondonada del aire, movimiento del monte, monte del movimiento, necesidad del árbol, florescencia del pájaro, movimiento del viento, necesidad sin nido, movimiento sin pájaro, florescencia sin árbol, hondonada sin aire, hondonada sin monte, necesidad sin nido, florescencia sin pájaro, movimiento del viento. That was Mauricio Rosenman. And please, Dirk, you're in charge now. Thanks again.
Thank you, Dirk Hüelstrunk, and welcome, Juha Valkeapää. Have to learn your name, please, and find
we have to say it again a couple of times, I guess. Yes, I'm very happy we can establish now a connection between all the way from South America to way up in Northern Europe to Finland. That's where Juha Valkeapää comes from, and I'm very happy that he found the time to come here. I think he's one of the most renowned performance artists and vocal artists in Finland. He doesn't really like the term sound poetry, as I understand, even though I believe he's also some sort of sound poet sometimes. But maybe we can talk about that, why you don't like the term or why you're doing things that could be considered sound poetry. Actually, we did a sound poetry duo project some years ago called Dirk, because we had a double residency in a small village in Finland, where there was not a lot to do, but just try out crazy things. And so we did. And but Juha, I know, is really doing a lot of very different stuff. He's doing a lot of performance stuff, theater performances, sound installations, sound design also, and solo art, and a lot of collaborative art with other artists, video artists, and other sound artists. And so I think that's quite interesting, and he will show us a couple of his works, only very few things, of course. Yeah, and I believe that one point we might discuss later on would be the importance of voice in performance, which we started with Federico some time ago. So that might be a starting point to talk about. And maybe I would just ask Juha Valkeapää, just to show us some of your works and tell us something about you.
Okay, yeah. Hey, hello everybody. Thanks for this invitation. It's dark in here. I'm on countryside, so and I didn't bring any hard disk, so everything I can show you must be on the web. I don't go to the sound poet concept right now, but I start from the beginning. I shortly introduce how I started dealing with the sound, with voice, with my voice, and and how did I enter the place where I am currently. So it all started in the beginning of 90s. I wanted to do something. I was studying theater science at the Helsinki University, and I was also studying a Hungarian language. And I was living in Budapest at that time, and I was trying to figure out what to do. I was so fed up with analyzing other people's performances only, and then I somehow came up with the idea that I have a voice and it's always with me. I don't have to carry it in a suitcase or in a big transit case or but it's with me, and it works. And then I wrote to my friend and asked him that, would you please want to start voicing with me? And he said yes, and then we started. So that's my art school, like a vocal improvisation duo. We were called Kesken. It means something that is in process or in between. My friend now, he's running, Dirk told me that some of you guys are in London. So my friend is running the Finnish Cultural Institute in London at the moment. Then it went on for 5 years and we didn't use any words. So words, they were prohibited. And and then it became so. The first work, actually, I could now show something like the first work, and it's called Vocal Portraits, and I made those. It was first time in 1998, and I'm still doing those now and then, quite seldom. But I will share now my screen. It leads us to my website. And this picture here is quite fresh. It's from 2019, I guess. Can you read it? I have performed vocal portraits in various contexts since '98. Basic situation has remained almost the same. A person sits on the chair and says their name. I cover their eyes and voice the portrait using the phonemes of their name. This concept, portrait, is a bit misleading. I don't describe the person on my chair with my voice, but play with the phonemes of their name instead. It's kind of a mini concert for one person. Of course, there can be other people watching it, listening to it, but mainly I focus totally, like in this picture, on this one person who is sitting on my chair. And I imagine I'm kind of a surround mono loudspeaker. I go around, I can go low to the floor, I can go above their head, I can go far away to the neighboring room and yell from there. I can come really near to the ear. And I have done a few variations of this. Once with objects, like with Apple here. But I will show you one. This is from 2015, and the girl's name is Alisa. Alisa. Actually, now I understood that this was like not the best, maybe example, because I was using a microphone. So I was not the surround mono loudspeaker. I was telling you I usually am. But the basic situation is like that without microphone. I have once voiced two people at the same time, a couple. It was their wedding present. And then I have also voiced a tree, Rowan tree. And then I have voiced climate in a demonstration. Yeah. So this was my 90s, like not really using words, but I used words like as a inspiration, as a sound source material, but not in a place like a speaking or telling a story with words. Then in the beginning of 2000, I found words again, and it was relieving because I was not like, I learned that I can use words, and finding those back was great. But now I realize that the next example, it's called jargon. It doesn't use any words. And this is from 2011. And the concept, it was not complicated. It was a series of vocal pieces taking place in 2011 at the politicians' statues in Helsinki on the politician's birthday. And for an hour, I would talk jargon. And I can show you a couple of minutes of this was in April, and on Senate Square in Helsinki. And the person whose statue that is was a Russian Tsar, Alexander II. So this continued for an hour. And that was for the last time I didn't use any. I was kind of in my everyday clothes. And I understood that it's a mistake, of course, that I should wear something that people could see that I'm performing, that I'm not a village fool or a crazy person. But normally, like all of you who have been performing in the street, people, or at least in Finland, people don't want to get involved. So they are kind of like they don't see you. They don't, maybe they hear you, but you are like a fly to them. You are like a flies buzzing in their ears a little bit, and it's easy to avoid that person. Then the third piece, it's called Bird Concert. it's quite new. We made it in 2018. I made it with other guy. He was playing synthesizers, and I was using my voice, and we were both also speaking a bit. I was speaking about birds, and he was speaking about electronic sound making. So we create a scenery of everyday and mythological birds like sparrow, great tit, starling, pigeon, seagull, swan, eagle owl, raven, loon, cuckoo, and then there was phoenix and tax penguin. So I will play you a short excerpt of that. This is from Turku, New Performance Turku Festival from September 2018. Only the male. The female burbles acceleratingly. The male. And now we have a little lesson of Finnish language. Äimä, you know, äimä, is quite common word. It's a pig needle or a shoemaker's needle. Käki is cuckoo in Finnish. And as you know, it is a bird. If you behave like a käki, like a cuckoo, you are drunk. If you behave like äimäskäki, that is the cuckoo of the shoemaker's needle, whatever that is, you are astonished, flabbergasted. The cuckoo is a nest parasite that lays its eggs into the nests of the species it has grown up itself. And did you know that cuckoo eats hairy caterpillars? Okay. I don't have any. Dirk said that it would be nice to have kind of examples of pieces where I'm talking more, and in those I think that I'm making kind of a contemporary theater, although I don't usually have any role, or those pieces are not based on any drama. But like I said in the beginning, I don't have those with me here. Sorry. So I guess this maybe can give some kind of like a picture I'm using still a lot of my voice. I'm thinking that maybe still the listening is more important than making sound with your voice, but yeah, they go together.
Yeah, thank you, Juha, for presenting these excerpts. I know there is so much more to show about you, but I think we can also see at your website a lot of your projects. So if anyone's interested, they can go to the website. We have this in the WhatsApp group. And but of course, one of the reasons why I was asking you to come here was also the voice projects, definitely. And so, yeah, my first question is really, so why would you not consider yourself a sound poet, but a performance poet rather, or how would you call it?
Well, how I imagine what a sound poet is, I think that they write down what they are making then with their voices, like ordinary poets. Of course, I'm wrong here, but this is what I have in my mind, and that's why I think that it's also so connected to literature, to written stuff. But yeah, I'm happily wrong here too.
I'm pretty sure you are, because otherwise I would not be a sound poet, because sound poetry I do is not writing really. In my eyes,
we were writing with you, Dirk.
Yes,
we were writing
about that. Yeah, but we were also improvising a lot. We started completely improvising, and that's what I also find so interesting, because there is so much improvisation in what you do, and using the voice as a tool to do whatever you want and to improvise that, or use it as a starting point to improvise, I would say. So that's one of the interesting parts. And well, but what is the difference to performance? What would you say is what is your performance kind of being, or performance being? How do you define yourself as a performer?
Yeah, it's not an easy question. Well, I think usually when I'm performing, it's just my performer self there, like with my name, and but performing, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
But
really.
It's always you as a person, so you are always visible as a person.
Yeah, usually yes.
Yeah. Okay. And,
yeah, most of the time.
Yeah. You also told me last time that you are working on a new project right now. Maybe we can talk about that too. Well, what is that? Which is just right in the beginning.
Well, yeah. Well, I got an idea maybe 3 years ago in Rome. I was helping my friend to move to Italy, not to Rome, but nearby. So I took my chance and I had a really quality time there for a week, and I fell in love with the fountains and with Nasoni, the drinking wells of Rome. They were everywhere, and then I thought, okay, would be quite interesting to make those with voice, and to become a fountain or a drinking well. And then I realized that, okay, it's the time for applying to a residency there, and Circolo Scandinavo. It's a residency for Scandinavians in Rome, in Trastevere, and I applied. I made an application right there in March 2018, and I got the place there, and I went back in November 2018. And there I wrote, I don't know, 20 partitures for my voice, and making water. And I liked those, but still I was not happy, because I thought that, okay, I should do this with water, not about water, but with water. And kept reading a lot. That's usually I start everything by reading a lot. I'm a manual man in that sense, or a script person, need those texts. And then we had just made a bird concert with Jussi, this synthesizer guy, and I asked him whether he would be interested in making something with water. And of course he said yes. And then we found a guy for visuals too. And so now we are 3 of us, and we just started. We should have gone to residency again to Italy in October last year. But of course it didn't happen now. And maybe we go there next October. Who knows? Nobody knows at the moment. But we started last week. And the second day, I realized that with water for me means that I put my face into the water bowl. So we had a quite big bowl of water of maybe 50 liters, transparent, made of plexiglass. And I had one mic in condom, and I could put it under the water. And then there was another mic just above the surface of the water. And then Jussi was mixing. He was kind of like playing with the different microphones. He had also a couple of piezos there attached to the bowl. And then our video guy, he was playing with lights, etc. So at least for 2 days we had fun. I don't know when we continue next week whether we will have fun again, but I'm quite sure we will. So that's playing with water. And it will become a water concert.
It sounds like a great concept, and I hope we can see that soon. There's one thing that also strikes me about your work, and that's first how strong the improvisation is, very often, not always, but very often, but also is the playfulness, and at the same time it can be very serious, and it can convey serious messages. So it's both. And so is it just coming by chance, or is there always like a serious idea you try to convey in a playful way, or is it the other way around, maybe, that the serious messages somehow evolve out of playing?
Well, yeah, I don't think I'm a comedian. Not like a purposefully, at least. So, but usually I want to talk about, well, before I always thought that, okay, you can do art. There are two subjects you can do art of, love and death. I was quite like there are only those two, nothing else. So they are serious subjects, I guess. And but nobody can take this serious business like without any laugh. So we must laugh once in a while, and then we can consume some serious stuff too. Nowadays I've been going maybe, well, at least in Finland it's a big trend, fashion, and I'm a fashionable person, of course. So I'm going with the trend and towards more than human stuff. So that's the birds, that's the water, then big trees, other animals, etc. So I guess, well, death is still here, but love has gone somewhere.
Yeah, you made a big project about death too, is it? About the execution project.
Yeah, it was, yeah, executed stories. Yeah. It was, it's a theater piece or lecture performance. It lasts 2.5 hours, no interval, no pause. I'm alone there. And then I'm telling life stories of executioners and people who have been executed by state. And then I demonstrate some execution methods. And of course, some of those are such that I can't do them myself alone. So I ask always like helpers from the audience. It's not easy always. They don't want to come to hang somebody, although it's a doll, but still it feels kind of like a bizarre or bad.
Yeah.
But in the end, they come because they want to help me, and they want that the performance will be over.
You look so needy then. Yeah, maybe we should open up the discussion, and maybe some other people have questions about your work. And yeah.
Yeah, that seems like very dark humor. That last piece. I wanted to ask you about the use of public spaces, because I saw that at least a good quantity of your performance are in public spaces. And I wanted to know if that it comes from the beginning of your work, or if it's been evolving, like going out of the theater or a bar or a club, trying to find new places to perform. And also, as a second question, how have you dealt with that during this pandemic? Have you tried like theater pieces in Zoom, or in Chile and some countries, there are actors that are trying these new formats to find some possibilities? How has it been in your case?
Well, the first question first. I guess the street came. Well, I don't remember actually when it came part of my kind of like part of those places where I could perform. I guess the reason was that only people who go to theater or to a museum or to a gallery are those people who go to a gallery or a theater, etc. But on the street, everybody is in the street. Of course, I quite soon realized that it's really a hard place to be, because they don't want you to be there. At least not in Finland. I have made those performances in few places also, but usually you are kind of like a parasite there, or this a kind of village fool person. And actually, I have not done any street work after that jargon. But now I'm planning. I have also another idea I want to try on the street in the coming years. I like museums too a lot. Like when there is an exhibition going and then you can do something inside of the exhibition. I like those situations a lot. Pandemic, no, I have not done any streamed performances. I don't like watching them myself. I have tried few times. One was really like a truly thought, and it kind of worked. But for me, one of the biggest things with live art is that we share the same room, we are together, etc. So the presence is not there if it's mediated by internet. I watch football.
Yeah, me too. and series. Thank you very much.
And also it's wonderful that you work with elements and with. I used to work a lot also with hydrophones, and in every live stage I make water into the system. After study a little bit all the Greek old poets, who base themselves in that kind of first element, who are like tellurics, and I give things to poetry and to propagate that to the people, like in order to healing communities or changing reality in some moments. There was a counselor of Socrates who stopped 2 fights, city fights, changing the harmonic in that musician plays in the city. And he was a poet, counselor. And then, I don't know, what about when you say love and death, it made me think like Empedocles, like when he talked about love and hate. But it's, he's not talking exactly like a concept. He talked about philia and nikos, like a connection and disconnection, a misconnection. And then how you feel connected with the people when you make poetry, and how you connect those different dimensions of like kind of deep soul with like modern action.
Well, it's quite natural to me to talk to people during the performances. Usually I like address people directly. And the love piece I did like after this death piece, this executed stories, it started like I was once again like almost 50 years old and falling in love and behaving like a teenager. And I was thinking that how is it possible? And this is ridiculous. And then I thought that, okay, now I have a problem and I must solve it. So, okay, what can I do? I will make a performance of it because I'm not alone suffering of the same ridicule, like falling in love when you are 50 and you are behaving like a teenager. So I made a piece of that and I invited people to my home, like my actual home where I live in Helsinki. And it was so fun because people were really like thinking about that. Is it actually Juha's home? No, it can't be. He has rented this from, but there was his name on the door outside. No, it's complete theater, I know he lives somewhere else. And but then they came to my home. Maybe 20 people could fit into the living room. And in the end, I served them. I said to everybody that, okay, it's my 50th anniversary, 50-year birthday party. So sometimes people brought me gifts and they were really like, they wanted to participate. They wanted to play this game. And I guess kind of like, I don't know now if I'm answering your question, but like this was like making the relationship with the audience, people whom I didn't know. Well, at least all of them I didn't know. So.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to deal with things that like I made a performance one time that there was a kind of like exorcism for a group of artists in the north of Paris. They call us, me and myself, Benjamin Bottinelli, we make the synchronizers, kind of like a healer action poetry, because it was a ghost in the kind of castle with all of us artists association lives. And they don't know what to do with him because he tries to make care to people. And we make a kind of avocation of Dr. Pierre, was the name, because he was like a crazy doctor who invented everything with peppermint, and he discovered the toothbread peppermint, and we choose the people in the public who arrive, like we play a trumpet like ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Pierre will appear in some moment, and anyway, and we work with that kind of like surprise and at the same time like connection with like local problem of the situation. And that is what I feel that kind of work in you. And do you work with different kind of speaker over the people, or some more like proximity of like binaural sound? Because when I saw with the little girl, I imagine like that how she can like receive that sound around her.
Well, in that case, she didn't, because it was my voice. It came through the PA system there. So, but usually I don't use any amplifiers when I'm doing those vocal portraits. So then I'm really going around that person and playing with the distance and playing with the direction and stuff like that.
But yeah, it's really obvious to see how she reacted to this piece. So maybe it was a good example anyway, because I think she reacted pretty strongly to what you were doing. Is it always like this?
Well, with adults, of course not, because adults they protect themselves more, I guess.
Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing that that performance, particularly with the Alisa, and but I was thinking when you were talking about that, you were saying that sort of came out of a time when you were really resisting language and words, or you were resisting words,
yes.
weren't you? And sort of rejecting words, and I thought it was very interesting. It seemed to be, is it kind of words in the sort of function of representing that you were sort of turning against there, because, and then really coming to this idea of language as something which is addressing, because there's a lot of address in your work, whether it's people or birds or water. You're interested in the way that language moves into a situation. And when you say you're sort of suspicious of writing or not interested in writing, is that the point at which it becomes something external, or stepping back and representing? Is that what you don't like, what you're sort of, is that the tension in your work, do you think?
Well, I guess it started with my studies of theater science. I was just completely fed up with analyzing, like with this kind of like use of language and words that I thought that really often they just want to sound fancy, and they don't mean anything. They are empty and academic, empty words. And I was completely fed up with that, and it made me sick. But like I said also that I read a lot, and I'm reading constantly. So I love words in that sense. But words, like what was the song, the famous pop song, words don't come easy. So to me, so it's so it's kind of like also true that I find like I have tried to write something a couple of times in my life, like something that would become maybe a little book or whatever, and it has been so difficult. And so then after a year of trying, I have thought, okay, it was not time yet. Maybe when I'm 70, then maybe I can write something. I don't know, but. Yeah, and like I said before, it was really a big relief when I found words again, that I can use them, and they can mean something. They are not like inflated at the same moment when they come out of my mouth. So, yeah.
Is that something that has a particular kind of Finnish context? That kind of that tension about language, and especially a sort of distrust of unnecessary language?
Well, yeah, there are these cliches that Finns are, they don't talk too much, they are shy, they talk only when they are drunk, etc. There are people like that. I know many people who really like you must like pull the words out of them. But then, of course, there are talkative people too. And but my father, for instance, he didn't talk too much. So I have really had to put my like effort in talking. That I have this legacy, or how do you say, like in me?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just wondered if it was there in you know, if those sort of tensions are kind of there in a poetry background or a literary background, you know, that being a kind of, yeah, a point of tension somehow, yeah, that yeah, sort of, yeah, almost a problem about words. And it was very interesting the way that you, I mean, I guess we all have a problem about about words. You know, we're here in this viral or viral situation, but yeah, but it's you know, but I guess everybody, you know, everybody brings a slightly different perspective to it, and I just wondered if there was anything kind of anything else specific from your context that wouldn't be obvious to us. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway.
Also on the idea of analysis that you brought up, Zoe, it's very interesting that the first performance, it's exactly like psychoanalysis, that the way you're positioned behind the person, and it is perhaps a kind of analysis without words, and especially because you also blindfold the person, so you're forcing the person to pay attention to the words that you're not saying or trying to say and making the sound of. Is that the reason that you did you blindfold all of them, or okay, so what was that the reason for them to pay attention to the sound?
Yes, of course. That's, well, yeah, maybe the thought there was that we obviously we hear better when the eyes don't bother us, when we are not bothered by vision, and but of course it makes the person on the chair really vulnerable, and I must really pay attention to that I don't like misuse or abuse the situation, like in any way, that I must be really gentle and yeah, but I have
especially with the little girl you're making there, you kind of friendly and the sweet sounds, nothing that would scare her.
Yeah, for sure it affected me.
Did you also get negative reactions, like people feeling really uncomfortable with that?
Well, not really. A few times there was a funny situation that somebody said to me that, okay, that was not me. I don't sound like that. They were really like and they were so serious. They were so like that. No, I was totally like what were you doing? You were completely like you really missed the point. Person says to me. Sorry.
But then that again can be because it just replicates the analysis. The person's on a chair and you're not very visible, so they're thinking it's all about them, and there's something from their psyche is coming out at the time of the performance.
Yeah, and also that I have named it a portrait. That its portrait comes from I guess from the death of that person who is being portrayed. But like I said, it's like a kind of misleading, I think, the name or title a bit, because I'm not, or at least I don't think that I describe the persons with my voice. I'm just playing with their name. Although I sometimes I like to think that we all sound like our names, so that's our sound.
So I also have one other question about jargon, that you said you perhaps should have dressed differently. What would you put on if you wanted to just put a costume? What would that be?
Well, obviously, after that, what I showed to you, I I put a male dress on, because that's a politician's suit. I put a suit on, a black suit. And then I had a blank paper on my hand. So I was kind of giving a speech.
Mm-hmm.
So I pointed the performance.
And what would it be different? Because you said that people usually in Finland don't pay attention to performers. So would they pay attention to you if you dress differently?
Well, then they know that I'm performing, and that makes them feel safe, because he's a performer, he's not a lunatic. And well, of course, people in Finland, when you know that, okay, there is a street art festival going on, then, and they know that it happens on that mall's inner yard, for instance. So then they pay attention to that. But I was doing those on my own. They were not like really announced anywhere. I didn't have any budget for marketing, and I didn't want to use it. If I did have, I wouldn't have used any money for the marketing, because I wanted kind of make these kind of attacks or provocations or whatever. But then the main newspaper got this idea, and I was announced there now and then. And in the summer already, and in the autumn, because it was a year-long project, there were people who were coming to see me performing. So they were following it. And yes. But sometimes when it was this sleet, rainy, snow, raining, there was nobody.
Really liked that piece, Jargon, quite a lot. And I missed, I was outside when Zoe was talking, and I don't know if I'm going to repeat anything she said here, but, and it's also kind of from what Ghazal was saying about blocking the eyes. I mean, the Jargon piece was so powerful to me because basically you're speaking gibberish. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, as so many politicians end up doing. And in that sense, you're kind of blocking their ears, and they have to look at you, or maybe they would look at you more. Although what you said, it's probably more effective if you dress up like the politician or something. And so it ends up being a very powerful statement about political speak. And I found it really kind of riveting. And I have a soft spot for gibberish, so I just love the sound of it.
Thanks. Yeah, me too. I love gibberish. Yeah.
Also, hubbub is quite nice. Yeah.
Hello, Juha. Thank you so much for that. It was really, I really love your work, actually. It was really strong. Yeah, we were just talking about it. But I really love the idea of the naming and the presence within those first two works. But then the idea of meaning in your piece that is in relation to the statues, that's really powerful. I don't know, personally, I find like the way of like your delivery is totally meaningless, in inverted commas, whatever you're talking, blah, blah. And then I think also this very strong contemporary feeling of like all these statues being totally meaningless as well. And then I really love the way that you subvert that in like, by being in this totally meaningless sculpture, talking totally meaningless words, you make something very meaningful. So that's really nice.
Thanks.
Yeah. But how is your relation with meaning? Because I think it varies a lot. Like you do like bird sounds or like abstract words or just the naming and bringing something through that. But I don't know, it's nice to know how you relate with that.
Well, usually I want to be really clear I like to think that I like to keep my works like simple and clear. That's kind of like my aim. And also what Dirk said in the beginning, that combined with playfulness, it's kind of the recipe I'm using a lot. And to keep things simple and clear, so the meaning could come out. And of course, it can be there still, although the work is simple and clear, there can be so many meanings, like you all know, like depending on where we come from, etc. And yeah, I don't know now if I'm answering at all to your question. Sorry.
No, it doesn't matter. It's really strong. I love the idea of like how you mix that.
Just I'm just asking. I'm not sure if I 100% understood, but in the bird piece, was that the opposite of that? Because you were over explaining and over clarifying the meaning of the bird's name, and then combining it with the bird's sound. So I think can it be taken as the opposite effect of just over explaining too much, then it remains no meaning into it?
Yeah, maybe maybe I was explaining too much. Now I'm thinking about that also from some distance. I was using those bird things were anecdotes and kind of funny stuff. So with this Blanco expression, we were kind of like making, I don't know, maybe we wanted to make some comedy. I don't know.
That was hilarious. That was such a strong piece.
What I liked about this part and also about some other new pieces of yours, that you are always in conversation with the audience, or you have this conversation part, and it's also part of the performance, and it's also part of the sound. Art is the conversation as a sound tool, and also it is something rather unusual for, I would say, experimental art. Very often the experimental art does not talk about or does not communicate what it wants with the audience. So there's a barrier, and there's big expectations for the audience to do everything by themselves. But you are communicating with the audience all the time. So that's maybe special. Has that developed out of some experience, or was it always like this?
Well, I guess it was there from the very beginning. Like, I remember, well, I said how I started this art stuff. It happened in Budapest in the beginning of the 90s. And I saw a picture of an ear on the street. It was just a small leaflet. And it said that noise in half darkness. And I thought that, oh yes, maybe I could have done this. And I went there, and you buy the ticket. It was really cheap at that time there. So it was a really cheap ticket. And then they gave you also a glass of wine. And I directly felt so welcomed. So that was kind of like a starting of the conversation already, like giving a glass of wine to the audience when they enter the space. And so I brought that to Helsinki when we did our first kind of concerts or sound pieces, vocal pieces. We also gave wine to the people, and they were happy, of course. So already they were on our side, and yeah, it started from there. And then later on, we usually, after a performance, we served people. Like we had a theater piece, and after the piece, it was a Russian, kind of the the theme was Russian. And so after the show, we said to the people that, okay, now it's over, you can go home, or you can stay with us. And we bring here some tea, and we can continue talking all together now. And quite many people, they always stayed because they didn't want to leave the room immediately. And quite often me too, it's like after a show, it's so nice to linger on there in that atmosphere and with your feelings, and you don't have to talk to anybody if you don't want to, but still you are in the world the artwork created. And yeah, that I like. And it's also part of conversation, I think. But yes, being like a part of a performance, when especially then when you do solo pieces, and with the executed stories, for instance, being so long, 2.5 hours, I thought that it's just like so boring to hear only one person talking all the time. So that was one of the reasons I asked questions of the people, so we could hear other voices too.
I think it's really important to integrate the audience in a positive way, not only to shock them, but also give them something positive, especially if you are doing something rather experimental, things that they don't expect, and which is always difficult for people. So it's a great idea to give them something to so they can feel welcome in the world, because I've seen so many avant-garde performances where the reception was so cold, and yeah, I had the feeling that the performers actually hated the audience. So I think this is not necessarily for experimental art. We don't have to hate the audience, and that's really, really great. Yeah. Actually, what do you think about the situation in Finland? Do you think is there any special performative or performance scene in Finland, or experimental art scene in Finland? Do people like it more than maybe in other places, or is there more audience for it?
Well, I can't say about other places, but yes, in Finland, not only in Helsinki, but other, like, well, in Finland, Helsinki is the only city, combined with a couple of other places that are around of Helsinki. So there is maybe 1.2 million people living there. And the other so-called cities are more like a provincial towns. But there are, like in performance art scene, then experimental music scene is really vivid. And lots of stage poetry, and lots of also published poetry that is quite experimental. Yeah, well, yeah, in many areas, lots of stuff happening.
What was striking me when I was there, that you will always find even very avant-garde experimental art in very small places on a countryside, and place where you would not expect them to be, and so it's really spread out, and people are still open about it. I remember that I was doing one of the sound poetry and dance pieces with Mila Koistinen. I was doing in a barn on the countryside, and there were just very simple people coming there, but well, they liked it, and yeah, it was. They're very open to this. I'm not quite sure if it's common, but I had the feeling that it's really different than in Germany, where on the countryside it would be really difficult for this kind of art to do this.
Well, we are a country of festivals, and especially summertime, of course, when you can be outside more, like when you are not freezing. So then there are lots of festivals, and lots of festivals of multidisciplinary art, not only focused on one art discipline, but many. and interdisciplinary too. And those can take place anywhere, like a really like a small places, and also, of course, like also for us Finns, like a really exotic places in Lapland and by the seaside in the north, and really like many. Even I'm now in the countryside. This village has like 1,500 people living here, and this is my kind of like a summer cottage. And here too, in August, there is a multidisciplinary festival in this place, and there's also in this place a jazz festival in July. So lots of festivals in Finland everywhere.
Mm. And also you have a pretty good funding for art, public funding, which is, I think, very different because you don't have to work teaching. Well, you do teach sometimes, I think, but not full time. So you can live on grants and residencies, and so there's a lot of these kind of things also supporting artists, is there?
Well, yeah, we are privileged. Yeah, we can, but of course it's called art lottery. So it's really, there are so many good applicants always, and money is always less than the amount of applicants. But still, the state is a big funder, but then we have a few private foundations. Maybe you know Kone makes lifts, elevators. Well, they have an art foundation too, and it's one of the biggest nowadays. And they run a nice residency. Actually, Dirk have been there, so you can recommend that maybe.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the greatest I've ever seen, which is in close to Turku on the west coast, and it's also very interdisciplinary. Yeah, and that's something I really like about it. And I think they have these grants which go for like 3 years or 5 years, which is really something special. And you even got this one, I think.
Yeah, I had once 5-year grant. It was nice.
Sounds crazy for us, I would say. Get a 5-year grant, but it's I think it's very good for, well, experimental art or art which is really a bit special, I would say, which you would not find.
Then you can be like outside of the this free market, like this, that only amount counts, that you must really like only that art that can sell itself succeeds. Then there can be this kind of grassroots, marginal, experimental stuff that can also grow and affect other. Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, I like very much for what you were talking just before about this idea of experimental art that can be at the same time kind, generous, whatever, because I think that those divisions of what is difficult and what is easy or what is accessible or inaccessible aren't very clear. And there's a lot of funny stuff in the avant-garde. There's a lot of ways of doing something experimental, but at the same time very straightforward. For example, in Catalonia, there's Joan Brossa, or in Chile, there's Nicanor Parra, who are poets that, well, they have a very wide range of works, but some of them are very just like jokes that work very well, and they are difficult to construct, of course. So I dislike very much this idea of the boring, serious guy who explains everything very complicated. I mean, it's not so clear that distinction, and of course, lots of times the problem is what surrounds the piece or the work. A lot of discourse, a lot of words, a lot of complicated concepts. But maybe, I mean, and that is very cool when you do pieces in the street, for example. People that aren't thinking that they are watching a a contemporary experimental performance, they just get it and it's no problem. So I appreciate very much that direction.
Yeah, I want to think that I'm one of them. Like, of course, if I'm performing there, I'm usually the one who is responsible for the situation. So I must be more. So, and they can be just the audience.
Yeah.
But still, I think the performer is always in relation to the audience. So one must pay attention to it and take care of it. And I think then it's more attentive. And yeah.
Well, it's more like being the host.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit, yes.
Yeah. Like inviting them to your place, which I also found a really great idea. And of course, I also thought, is there also still a private Juha, or is everything you do kind of public art?
No, there is a private Juha.
But you very often try to blur the lines between what you really are and what is your performance and your performance persona.
Well, I have been playing with that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you if you have available, if you have one of the pieces that you have made with Dirk. We'd love to see your collaborations. One of your collaborations.
Dirk, are they still on YouTube?
I think they are. Yeah, they should be.
Let's
probably
see.
They're on my channel actually.
I check if I can find.
Yeah.
It would be cool if you can talk us about that dimension of the collaborative work.
Yeah, actually, I found one. So I will share my screen, and then this is written. And so our collaboration was about they were Dirk's poems that I translated into Finnish. So they are German Finnish, and not too serious. So this was maybe when was it? 2011?
I think 2011, yeah.
Yes.
Heilige Kacke, 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 heilige Kacke, 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 Kack, ich kack, kack, ich kack, du, kack, ich kack, kack, ich kack, du, Kacke, 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 ich kack, Kacke, Katze, Kacke, ich kack, Kacke, Katze, Kacke, ich kack, Kacke, Katze, Kacke, ich kack, Kacke, Kacke, Zicka, 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 K-E-A, 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 alles, Kacke, 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 heilige Kacke, Kunstkuh, Krach. Oi kaikki! Autuas taide
Oh, wow. Very good.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually, the fun thing is that it's really quite meaningless. It's well, it's really based on the word holy art shit, and so, but in 2 languages. So, but it's really complete nonsense, you know. So even the translation process is a bit strange. So we are translating nonsense poetry or nonsense really there. And we actually did it also the other way around. I think that we had you were also having some pieces in Finnish, but they were more performance ideas, performance scripts. We were executing then.
Yeah, and we were playing lots of with syllables, just like a 1 or 2 syllable.
Yeah. And you also had these pieces about body parts. I remember that the knees and the ears.
Yeah.
And yeah, it could get pretty noisy and crazy.
Yeah, but at the same time, I was thinking that how beautiful it was your connection with the people, like, and that piece with for one child performing or receiving the wave, and how like sound poetry is like more a kind of an inner space in a way, or like an inner experience, and how that kind of inner that you connect with the voice in a way, and how that inner experience you can connect it with the outer experience. And when, like Dirk said, that you are the host of the invitated people, but at the same time, what is the degree of surprise about it? That if at the same time that in a moment that you can lose yourself in performance, or everything is like predetermined.
Well, yeah, it's quite predetermined usually, but of course there are surprises even to myself now and then, that I keep I think that if the limits are clear for myself as a performer, then surprises can happen inside those limits, because I don't have to think about the limits. I know them, and but still, like I can act there inside in a way that surprises even me sometimes.
So
they
like
are not
creating
like
a frame, is it? Or
what?
It's like creating a frame inside of
Yes.
Things are happening then.
Yeah.
You have a frame where
yes
you can go on.
Yeah. Usually I know where I go next.
And so your next piece is about this water. And you also said this could be a starting point for a collective improvisation, something connected with water.
Yeah, I was playing like with the thought, with words, and like with different water words, like in different languages, because those are so different. That, for instance, water and Wasser, and then aqua or o, or in Finnish vesi, Hungarian vis, Greek nero, etc. So those are so different that I thought that maybe, yeah, that could be one starting point for an improvisation, that everybody just takes their word for water and plays with that word, either in a total, like you can use the word like whatever way you want to, or you just take one phoneme and play with that. But this word water in your own language kind of makes your frame where you can move. And of course, listening to what the others are doing with that. What do you say?
Yeah, it's an amazing idea.
So now you can open your mics and let it flow.
Wasser. 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 Wasser.
Agua.
Wasser.
Agua.
Wasser.
Water. Water.
Wasser. Wasser. Wasser.
Water, water everywhere.
Wasser.
Water, water everywhere.
Wasser. Wasser.
Water.
Wasser.
Water, 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 water.
Oh, 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 oh.
Flash.
Water, 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 water.
Einfach nur Wasser, 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 Wasser, einfach nur Wasser, einfach nur Wasser, einfach nur Wasser, nur, einfach nur Wasser, nur Wasser, einfach nur Wasser, einfach nur Wasser, einfach nur Wasser. Wasser, ganz einfaches Wasser. Einfach nur Wasser. Ich will doch einfach nur Wasser. Einfach. Ist das so schwer? Nur einfach Wasser. Einfach. Einfach nur Wasser. Einfach. Ganz einfaches Wasser. Nur Wasser. Ein einfaches Glas Wasser vielleicht. Kann ich ein Glas Wasser zum Kaffee haben? Kann ich bitte ein Glas Wasser haben? Das kann doch nicht sein, dass das Wasser jetzt auch noch kostet.
Oh.
Ah.
Oh.
Ah.
Oh.
Ah. Ah. Ah.
Oh.
Ah.
Oh.
Einfach nur Wasser.
آب بنوشیم.
Will doch einfach nur Wasser.
هممون آب بنوشیم. سه شنبه ها آب بنوشیم. آب.
Will doch nur ein Glas Wasser. Oder doch lieber ein Glas Wein. A glass of water, please.
Dame un poquito de agua, porfa. Dame un poquito de agua, porfa.
Einfach nur Wasser. Einfach nur
Water bag, water ballage, water bailiff, water bath, water bearer, water bed,
Vivamos debajo del
water
agua.
horn,
Vivamos debajo
water bus, water can, water carrier, water carrier, water cart, water casket, water coffee, water color, water course, water cress, water dog, water drinker, water drop, water engine, waterfall, water flood, water fowl, water front, water furrow, water gall, water gas, water gate, water glass.
Ma.
Water water hen, water hole, water horse,
Aguas.
water lane, waterless, water level, water lily, water line, water log, water logged, Waterloo, waterman, watermark.
That was great. Thank you all.
Thank you. That was really
Everything was predetermined.
Yeah.
Everything predetermined since the beginning. Everything was totally prepared.
We were all reading a score that you sent
like
via email.
like always, you know.
I think you have to go to Finland and to understand why water, because it's the most watery country I've ever seen.
Oh, really?
So much water everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Inside,
we have
outside.
Water scores.
So if you have a lack of water somewhere, maybe you go to Finland.
Yeah, that's important to know these days. Well, I guess we're done for today, and I wanted to thank very much Juha. It was a pleasure having you in this talk. Please feel free to come whenever you like or watch the videos. And also thanks very much, Dirk. It was great having you as the conductor of
Thank you, Dirk.
orchestra today. And next week we will receive Chris Paul. So we'll
Chris Paul he will prepare us like a performance, like he stopped communicate for some days because he's like will make a like kind of creative transformations. I don't know. It's like an alchemist transformation of his flesh and soul. It's really like interesting. Like let's. I don't have news from here for like some days, but I think it's okay. But
Guys, I gotta go. Thank you so much.
Well,
thank you, everybody.
Next Wednesday.
Thank you, everybody. See you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you. Thank you,
Thank you. Thank you.
See you next time.
Next Wednesday.
Is it always next Wednesday?
Yeah,
always.
All the Wednesdays.
Okay. Yes.
All the Wednesdays forever.
Always.
Everything is predetermined forever.
Time.
Every always fixed.
Wednesday.
You know, like the
Great.
same space time. Every Wednesday we are here with George, Dirk, and now some of you. And now you're welcome now.
Thank you.
And
Thank
you for your work.
Welcome, James. We hope to see you again. James is in
there is no
the stage.
always. There is all Wednesdays. All Wednesdays.
Ciao, todos.
All the ways to
Okay.
Wednesday.
Ciao.
James. So James,
Ciao.
welcome
Okay.
also.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Give me some water.
Yeah.